Okay, I think we're on. Hi, welcome. I see everybody joining. Hi, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Okay, there are more people joining now. How are you doing this morning, Chandra, Preeti, Kaushik? Excited?
Yes.
Very excited. Yeah.
Great, I see a few more people joining. Maybe we'll wait for a minute and then start the session.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, I think we're good to go. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's session of SecPod webcast. I'm Jagsir, your host. Through SecPod webcast, we bring you the latest happenings at SecPod and exciting stuff that we're working on to prevent cyber attacks for enterprise IT security teams globally. Today's session is a special session, and I'm not going to talk about that, right? I have my colleagues, really happy, smiling faces. They work so hard. So I have my product and engineering teams today, and they really have something exciting to talk about. I'd like to introduce today's panelists. I have with me Chandrasekhar Basavanna, CEO of SecPod, Preeti Subramanian. She's the Director and Chief of Research and Development. And then I have Kaushik Kota, is Director of Engineering. So hardcore technical stuff, really excited. I'm really excited, upbeat about what we're going to talk about today. They're here to talk to you about the latest upcoming product updates and share a few key insights into the reasons and the customer asks that led to this development. And also, I am pretty excited, get upbeat for some cool innovations. So in the next 45 minutes, we're going to talk about what are the things that we have built and how is that going to impact IT security teams and help them achieve what they want to achieve. But before we begin, I'd like to remind everybody that there's a recorded session of this webinar post we finished this, and which will be available on our website and our YouTube channels. We also would send a recording to your email after the session, so you can watch it and share it with your colleagues. Towards the end of the session, we will have a quick Q&A session. We'd love to hear from you. What are your thoughts, as well as if you have any questions for Preeti, Chandra, and Kaushik. They would really love to answer your questions. You can post your questions in the chat box below your Zoom player. So that's housekeeping. A little bit about today's agenda. We're going to talk about the advanced vulnerability management story that we use as a core in any solution that we develop for our customers. So Chandra is going to talk about that. And then we have something really exciting, something we call cyber hygiene score, and sounds pretty exciting to me. So we're going to talk about that. How does that how is that built into the product, and how does that impact customers? And then we are going to also talk about beta update that we have built for risk prioritization. And then towards the end of the session, that's the most exciting part that we have, is a quick demo of the unified the dashboard that we have given a new look. right? And towards the end of the session, we're going to have a quick Q&A session. So that's from me, and I'm eagerly waiting for what's going to be uncovered. So without any further delay, I'll hand it over to Chandra. Chandra, please, the audience is yours.
Thank you, Jaksir. Good morning, everyone, and good evening. Thank you for taking the time to be part of our session. We are obviously excited to demonstrate and showcase some of the things that we have built for the past months or so. Personally, very, very happy to kind of announce this into the public domain. So also, this is a preview of what we have built. We have not really launched a full-fledged product into the, not yet released the product. This is something that we are planning to do it over the next coming weekend. So this is a preview of what we're going to be launching. So makes it even more exciting that way. So we have some packed items in the agenda. SanerNow 6.0 is something that we have been building. And so it has some cool innovations, as Jaksir mentioned, cyber hygiene score. It's our attempt to get into risk scoring. And there's also a new product, a beta version of risk prioritization that we are launching this weekend. And unified dashboard. This is kind of a complete story in one single pane of glass. So that is something that we are going to be showcasing it today. So just to set the context to all of you. So the vulnerability management that we have been talking about, as you know, so if you look at the NIST CSF, prevention, detection, response, and recovery, these are the 4 layers. So prevention is where vulnerability management belongs. And vulnerability management has to be an end-to-end lifecycle management of vulnerabilities of different kind, from getting visibility into the infrastructure, identifying vulnerabilities of all kind, prioritizing those vulnerabilities that are relevant for the organization with the business context, etc., and remediating all of those vulnerabilities. So this is what we call as end-to-end lifecycle management of vulnerabilities. And that is what we have been talking about at SecPod for several years now. So one single pane of glass, providing you with the ability to do all of these within a single platform, which was kind of a distant dream without SanerNow being there, right? So typically what we have seen is most of the organizations rely on multiple siloed products, about 5 to 6 different products, different consoles, different vendors. Managing all of them is extremely complicated, and that is where the organizations are not really seeing the security effectiveness after having invested in a vulnerability management or vulnerability assessment tools. And that is the problem that we set out to solve with SanerNow. It starts with visualize. This is a layer that gives you complete visibility into the IT infrastructure. And then we've recently introduced a layer called normalize. This identifies all the outliers that are present in the environment and helps clean up those and set a baseline for the environment, if I may say so. Does a lot of analytics and machine learning to identify anomalies and present those anomalies to our users and helps them take actions to clean them up. And then we have detection layer. As part of this layer, we detect vulnerabilities of all kinds. When I say all kinds, it is not just a software vulnerability. We have to deal with misconfigurations. We have to deal with security controls that are deviating. So all of these vulnerabilities are detected within the same platform. And then obviously is prioritization. So you have millions of vulnerabilities in a typical customer environment. You don't know what to act upon. So that is where the prioritization comes in. And as the industry has realized, CVSS score is no more, I won't say relevant, but it is no more helping when you have large number of vulnerabilities that you have to deal with. So you have to bring in the business context or the environment specific information, and you have to bring in the vulnerability intelligence and multiples of these data points to really pay attention to the ones that we must be paying attention to in terms of remediating. Having said that, it doesn't mean that we have to ignore the rest of them. It is only helping us streamline the remediation process. So as part of the remediation, it's not just patching the vulnerabilities. We also have to fix misconfigurations and any other security controls that are deviating. We should have the ability to roll out those actions and fix all of them holistically. All kinds of vulnerabilities must be remediated. And then you have to demonstrate compliance to a security posture guideline that you have set for yourself or the industry guidelines. And that is where the reporting layer comes in. So this is the story that we have been building at SecPod with our SanerNow platform. Today, I'm pretty excited to demonstrate this end-to-end capabilities coming together on one single console. So I'll be taking the help of my colleagues to do that. But let me give you a little more details into each of these layers. So at visibility, it's about uncovering what kind of devices are there present within the infrastructure, not just the endpoint devices, the virtual devices and network infrastructure that is present part of the infrastructure, IT infrastructure that we need to safeguard. And this visibility has to be a continuous on an ongoing basis. So it cannot be a scan driven once in a while, and then this is the assets that I have, because users are always moving in and out, and IT infrastructure, the only constant thing about IT infrastructure, it is always changing. Newer things are coming in, newer software applications are getting installed, configuration changes are taking place. It's extremely important to do this discovery continuous. And visibility also extends beyond just knowing what devices that I need to safeguard, what is on them, what services, what processes, what applications are present. There are hundreds of such device parameters that we need to really get visibility into. And the third angle is also who are those users who are using these devices. So this is a perspective that is typically missing in any of the vulnerability scanning or an assessment tools, which is providing the visibility into the users who are using, what privileges are there, what user groups they belong to, etc. So this is part of the visibility that we are offering as part of SanerNow solution. Then when it gets into detection, it is not just a software vulnerability. Of course, software vulnerabilities are really critical to uncover. Newer vulnerabilities are getting added into the NIST database. If you look at it, on average, 60 to 80 vulnerabilities get introduced into the NIST CV database every day. So 20,000 plus vulnerabilities are uncovered on an annual basis. So we need to have that continuous discovery capability of identifying those vulnerabilities on a continuous basis, but not just stop at discovering the vulnerability. You also need to know what are those misconfigurations, because these are being exploited as equally as the software vulnerabilities that are there. And it is also easier to exploit. If you have an outdated protocol, if you have misconfigured security policies, etc., it's important to know those and eliminate those and get the devices into a specific baseline or compliance posture. Then you have posture anomalies, as I mentioned, identifying the outliers that are present in the environment and acting upon those outliers is all about posture anomalies. So it can be a security control that is deviating, or it can be some device that kind of stands out in the environment as against any other device. Maybe there are certain unique applications that are present that you need to, which is very specific to one device. So you need to know that and act upon that. And also, as part of detection, it is important to know what are those security patches that are critical, not installed yet. So once you have this visibility is where it gets into the prioritization, as I talked about earlier, millions of vulnerability, you don't know what to act upon. So bringing in the business context, which is the environment, what are those critical devices? Are they mission critical for my business to function, etc.? And then you need to obviously bring in some threat intelligence and vulnerability intelligence into the computation, along with being able to predict what are those vulnerabilities that are likely having a high likelihood of being exploited. So prioritization tells us these are the vulnerabilities that you must act upon, and that is where the remediation comes in: patching, software updates, Windows, Linux, Mac, third-party applications, a large number of those patching requirements, fixing misconfigurations, ensuring the systems are compliant to a security baseline or an industry guideline, and then having the tool set to help you go beyond patching, because as you know, patching alone is not enough, because there are a number of those security controls that may be deviating. There are a number of applications that may be present, outdated, end of life. You need those controls to actually take them off. So there are hundreds of such requirements from time to time the security administrators and IT administrators have. Having the tool set to go beyond patching is essential in order to reduce that attack surface and make this into a continuous and day-to-day sort of an activity. So this is where end-to-end vulnerability lifecycle management that we are talking about is coming together on that one single console. So as part of 6.0, we have three major things that we want to demonstrate today. One is the risk scoring or the hygiene score. The second one is the risk prioritization that we have launched as a beta. And then the unification of all these use cases into one single pane of glass. So our customers and the partners have this ability to now see everything in one single console and take decisions to eliminate those vulnerabilities within that. So with that, let me bring in Preeti to talk about the first two capabilities that we have, the cyber hygiene score and also the beta version of our risk prioritization product. Over to you, Preeti.
Thank you, Chandra.
Let me make you the host.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have cyber hygiene score for you. It's important to give a score sometimes to understand and to quantify what is the security posture of the organization. And when we look at that, what happens is we are dealing with a large data set, right? I'm talking about 200,000 vulnerabilities that are there publicly known. Plus, we also add something called SVE, right, from our intelligence team. And we have 30,000 plus configuration checks that we do. So we have a large data set, and somewhere we need to know where my organization stands. For that, we have something called cyber hygiene score. So it is a score out of 0 to 100 to know where you stand as an organization having devices and various accounts having devices. It provides clarity to you because when you are doing a large scale, security patching and research in your organization, there is some sort of clarity which is needed to understand where do I stand now. And quantification in general gives you that clarity because you can compare different accounts and see how the devices are doing. And it also helps you remediate because that is the push that you will get, right? So to get a better score. And also you can see how effective my mitigation efforts are going to be if I fix this particular risk that is there in the organization. And you can do more informed decisions based on the priorities of patching. You can also maximize efficiency. All those people who are worried if I'm productive enough, or is my IT team or security team is productive enough, this will be a major push to reach to that 100. That is what makes you a better account in Saner. And it also gives a lot of business sense, because you're making decisions. Probably you're in the C-suite, you're CISO, or you are an MSSP. You need to understand how different accounts that are getting managed, different devices that are getting managed in the organization from a security angle. And we believe in preventing attacks. So this will be that push that will make you reach to a better organization from a security angle. And what is this entire cyber hygiene score? We have developed a data analysis algorithm, which would take inputs such as vulnerabilities, which are the CVEs. Vulnerabilities are not just a software vulnerability. So we take into account software vulnerabilities. It could be a misconfiguration. It could be an anomaly in your organization. And there could also be patches that are missing. It could be security or non-security patches that are there in your organization. So these are the contributors for identifying risk in a device, right? I'm right now considering only one device. So practically, if you see, I have risks. Now, if theoretically you see, a risk can go from 0 to infinity, right? Because more and more risks can keep adding to your device. So we come up with something called a raw score, right? And it measures the risk that is there because of a CV being present, probably weighted by its CVSS score and other factors that we consider. There is a very critical patch that is there, and all that adds up into one big raw score. It is pretty raw, a very big number. Then we normalize the score to something called a global score, right? Which tells you what is the hygiene, right? So one part of it is where you say there is a risk in organization. So how hygienic am I? So that is normalized number from 0 to 100, right? So if you are to compare a device across accounts, right? So a global score is a very good way of comparing devices, and you can know that this device is probably having a better hygiene than the other. But then not all organizations and all devices are the same, right? So there is a business context that is there. Say it's a gaming organization and you have a lot of gaming applications installed versus, so it will show it as a problem, which you may need to whitelist using CPAM. But then we try to find a local score. So within a group of devices, in an account, you have multiple devices. There is a global score given to each device. Now, within that account, which is the worst machine and which is the best machine, right? So that's what we try to see. This is something like a percentile concept that probably everybody is aware of. So we take some portion of global score, some portion of local score, and we compute a cyber hygiene score. And this is the 80-20 rule that we take, 80% of global score and 20% of local score. So this is what is CHS. And so I give one score to each device. Then all those devices score averages out for an account. And different accounts have different number of devices. So the weighted average of each account, right, goes into the organization score. So we sum it up based on the weights, that is the number of devices. So this is how we come up with one score that can push you towards remediation. So I will give you a quick demo of what I'm talking about. I spoke a lot. So let me show you what it looks like. So when you see a dashboard, right? We have a change dashboard. Kaushik will tell you about it. So there is a score that is coming to you. So how good you are, right? In an organization, how does the count look like? Because organization has multiple accounts. Right now I'm showing you an account score, which is 68. So once you click on it, you'll be able to see a dashboard coming up. So 68 out of 100 is your cyber hygiene score. Now, what is this, this 32 that is pending? right? And these are the factors that are contributing to you not reaching 100. And for that, we have an attack surface here that we are showing. We can clearly see that VM is a little more than, vulnerabilities are a little more contributing than misconfigurations. And of course, there are a lot of patches that are supposed to be applied, and there are a lot of anomalies also. So this is the contributor that is adversely affecting your hygiene score. And if you try to see a trend of how I have been scoring over the last 30 days, it gives all people who are trying to make some sort of understanding, some sort of mathematical understanding. Mostly people who are in not actually solving it, but probably trying to understand the CISOs who are there, right? So they would want to see, I have been patching. If you are patching, right? I have been patching pretty well, but you can reach to a score with better patching. And this score basically tells you a prediction saying that more and more vulnerabilities will keep coming into the organization, and you will also be patching it. So this is how we see the score of your previous days, and it intelligently tells you what will be your score tomorrow. So if you see a sudden outburst of vulnerabilities in your account, you can see a dip. And those are the days where you probably have to make decisions of ramping up your patching activity. So all those people who are into decision making, they are definitely interested in seeing the trend of how their hygiene score has been. Now there is a distribution, frequency distribution of scores of individual devices and how do they fall into each of the categories. So here we say that 38 devices are falling under 70 to 80, which is good. But then there are so many other devices which are adversely affecting the score. If we list all those devices here, we will be able to see a report of each of these devices, and we'll be able to see what is that device, what is their raw score, which is a weighted sum of all the risks that are there in that device based on all the 4 modules that we are seeing today. What is their global score? Now, if you see, the global score of this device is pretty less because it is only 1.2. But when we see these devices in this account, it fairly does better. It gives a 37.12 score. And eventually its cyber hygiene score is 8. And you would definitely want to patch these devices. Now, what are those 5 top risk exposures that you have at the organization? If say you fix this vulnerability, this is a demo account. So if you fix this vulnerability on 21 hosts, probably you will be able to see a better score. So it actually helps you prioritizing your remediation activity. Similarly, you have misconfiguration, probably would want to disable insecure guest logins in your organization, which is affecting maximum number of hosts. There are some patches that need your immediate attention because they're critical and will eventually make your score better. And there are also some anomalies that you may need to address. So these are the top 5 risk exposures. Now, what is the weightage that I give to each of them, right? So there is something called a weightage that you can give to each of the modules. By default, it is a fair share, right? We give 25, 25, 25 to each of them. They sum up to 100%. If you want to give more priority to vulnerabilities, you can manually change this value. Otherwise, you can auto adjust. Now you know that you want to give 50% to vulnerabilities, but you don't know how others will need to worry. So you don't need to worry, it will auto adjust. And this is an intelligent way of adjusting your weightage to each of the modules that you want to give, which will eventually impact your score. So this is what is cyber hygiene score for you. Hope it helps you make better decisions, be more productive, give you that push for patching. So I will move forward now. to something called risk prioritization. This is a whole new tool which is open for an early access to people who would want to access risk prioritization in their organization. Cyber Hygiene Score is a tool that you don't need to configure unless you want to change the weightages. It automatically works. And I think it's a good news for all those people who would want to use it because it automatically comes up on your dashboard. So risk prioritization is one of the areas. People do risk prioritization in many ways, right? There are so many risks that are identified in the organization. Now they want to patch it probably based on CVSS score. They will see which are critical vulnerabilities I'll fix, or these assets are important for my organization, I'll fix, or if this has maximum number of vulnerabilities going down with this patching, I'll fix. So these are various ways people prioritize. There are multiple tools in the market to do that. But what we felt is vulnerability is not the same for an organization versus another organization. So there are multiple factors that actually affect the presence of a risk is totally different when you compare from one organization to another. So there is something called a business context. There could be some devices which are very, very critical for your organization. So to set that, you probably have data storage, devices that you would want to patch. You also have vulnerability data that feeds into the analyzer, which is basically all the vulnerabilities that I spoke about, the patching that probably is missing, and all the malware vulnerability enumeration, which is SecPod's input to this. We also have CISA's known KVs, right? So all those intelligence feeding in. And we also try to identify if this risk is chaining, in the sense that probably there is a risk in one device which looks very low and it cannot be publicly attacked. But then there is another risk that actually makes this risk being attacked by users, by people who have bad intentions. So this has a ripple effect. And it totally depends on the device, how the risks are in a particular asset. So a ripple effect can be there, which needs to be seen. And then we also have designed an algorithm based on machine learning, where we try to give a score to each of the risks that is there in the organization based on Google Project Zero, CISA known KVs, MVEs. If there are any crucial findings based on the way it has been attacked, so it could be a buffer overflow vulnerability. There are some critical vendors which are constantly under attack because they are widespread in an organization or across organizations. So it could be a Microsoft product which is continuously under attack because they're known big vendors. We also take into account MITRE attack framework, where techniques are used. Say, for example, you have an access token being manipulated, and tactics basically tell you why, right? It answers why a technique or a sub-technique is used. So it could be something like reconnaissance and things like that. And mitigation is a way to prevent those attacks. So you might be having a configuration which will frustrate the attacker. So we consider all these factors. And also, if there is a device which is publicly facing the internet, so you would probably want to patch them first because they are more under the brunt of attackers. And then there are technicalities. Probably that attack would take complete control of the software or component that it is attacking. So there are a lot of things that we check. And it is strongly based on CISA's stakeholder specific vulnerability categorization, which puts a risk into act, attend, track, start, track. So these are the 4 broad categories that we put into. So you might want to act on those vulnerabilities, the smaller set of vulnerabilities that need to be immediately answered, right? So this is what is risk prioritization for you. Because you are in this webinar today, I would want to give you a sneak peek of how it looks like. So I'll be going into deep detail of what we have done again in another webinar, but then ACT is something that requires you to act as soon as possible, because these are something, say, for example, we have a lot of vulnerabilities. 479 vulnerabilities need to be addressed first. Attend actually requires you to patch. Say, for example, you have some remediation cycles that you follow in an organization. Probably you need to attend them sooner, right? Because you cannot wait till your remediation cycle or the weekend, right? You might need to attend sooner. Track star are vulnerabilities where there are some specific categories that you need to closely look at. And track is something that you can wait, right? Because it's not very easy for attackers to attack. So I will just stop here and I will pass on the baton to Kaushik. I promise you, I will give you a big webinar on this because there's a lot to say. So let me make Kaushik the host. And I hope it helps all those who will use our product. Kaushik, over to you.
Thank you, Preeti. All right. How about getting visibility, detection, prioritization, remediation, everything in a single pane of glass, right? So it could be your CISO, it could be your security administrator, or it could be IT administrators. There is information which can be consumed. We give a lot of details in just one single dashboard. That's SanerNow unified dashboard for you, right? So I'm sure the audience would be curious to look at the demo of our new dashboard. So without wasting much time, I'm going to jump into the demo and demonstrate to you all the capabilities. All right, so this is our SanerNow unified dashboard. So as soon as you log in, this is the organization dashboard, and it consolidates all the data across the sites or accounts. So every organization will have one or more sites or accounts, and within those sites, you can create groups, and the devices will be under the groups. So if you look at the overall unified dashboard, it has been divided into visibility, detection, prioritization, and remediation. I think these set of things already Chandra touched upon, but now I'm going to go into detail about each one of them. So if you look at the visibility, right? So this is the portion where you get complete visibility into your IT assets. So you get to know what your IT assets are. It could be your desktops, workstations, servers, virtual machines, and also network devices. So in this organization, if you look at it, there are 313 total devices, and you get a breakup of this. So it gives you a visibility of all your IT assets. And not just the assets, but what has been installed within the assets also, we provide the details. But before that, we also give you an information, live data about all the devices which are active, inactive, and also how many new devices are getting added in your organization. So this is an important information because you always want to make sure that your devices are active, and we are able to detect all the vulnerabilities, and also how many new devices are getting added in your organization. So that information is available here. So I also talked about the hierarchy in terms of the number of, hierarchy in terms of the organization, then it will have sites or accounts and groups. So here you get to know how many device groups are present, and also number of operating systems, unique operating systems across your organization. And we also provide information about the total unique applications across all the organizations. So if you look at, I know this is a demo account, but still we have about 22,000 total applications. And these two are, again, an important visibility, I would say. There are about 18 outdated applications. So anytime you have an outdated application, I think the risk increases because there may not be patches available, and so the patches won't be available, so risk is more, right? So people can exploit these risks. Similarly, if you have blacklisted certain applications and still there are applications which are blacklisted and still installed in your organization, we provide those details as well. So we also give information on number of subnets in your organization, and also who are the users or user groups, right? So we provide this information. So I'll go a little bit more into detail later, but this provides the complete visibility of your IT assets and what has been installed in terms of the application and the user groups. And you also get to know the overall cyber hygiene score of an organization. So once we have visibility into the entire IT assets, I think the next logical would be for the detection, right? So what kind of risks exist in your organization? So first one is on the vulnerability management. So if you look at it, there are about 30,689 risks. And we also provide the breakup in terms of the CVSS severity. We also provide the trending. So if you look at it, the vulnerabilities across last couple of months, if you look at it, the vulnerability trend is going up, and I think it's getting mitigated. So which is always expected the trend to be downwards. But if there are more vulnerabilities or new devices which are getting added without patching, so you can see a uptick on the trend. So that's where it becomes actionable to make sure that the trend is always on the downward trend. And also we show terms of how many affected devices. Just one second. Yeah, so if you look at it, you'll also see that out of all the devices, there are about 207 devices which has vulnerabilities, which has one or more vulnerabilities where we need to take certain action, right? So you get to know all the details about the software vulnerability, and also you can expand and get details about breakup of each of these accounts. So for this demo purpose, this organization has 3 accounts. And each of these accounts, you can see the breakup of the total risks and also their severity and how many devices have been affected in each of the accounts. And if you want to dive into the account dashboard, you can click on this. Similar to vulnerability, you also have information on the misconfiguration. So similarly, how many misconfigurations are there, breakup based on their severity, and then the trending, and also how many devices have been affected. So on the posture anomaly, I think Chandra touched upon this. So this is where we use more than 100 parameters to discover all the outliers and deviation, and we apply all the machine learning and statistical model to find out what are the anomalies present in your organization. So if you look at it, each of this account has these many anomalies, and also we provide some kind of confidence level of high, medium, and low, and also how many devices are affected. And then once we have identified all these risks, we also provide the missing patches. So how many patches are available which can mitigate all these vulnerabilities? Right, so we provide the breakup of those patches and the severity of those patches, and also provide a trending graph, right? So the lesser the missing patches, which means whenever there is a missing patch, remediation is happening and the vulnerabilities are getting reduced. Similarly, the device breakup also, how many devices have been affected. So now that we have seen the visibility and also we have detected the risk, next logical step would be to prioritize them. So if you look at it, there are about 313 devices. And if you look at the total number of vulnerabilities or misconfigurations, it's pretty huge, right? I think Chandra touched upon, CVSS is not helping, right? So that's where the risk prioritization comes into picture. So this is a risk prioritization, again, Preeti touched upon. So what we do is we apply the prioritization algorithm to the risks and we categorize them. So we call this as a risk prioritization funnel, where all the risks, we categorize them into these 4 categories of track, track star, attend, as well as act. And act is something which is requires immediate attention, and we need to be taking action on these risks, right? And if you look at it, these are the factors which are influencing the risk prioritization. So if you look at all these risks, how much of them are highly exploitable, and these risks, whether they are automatable or not, and what is the total technical impact, and we give the details on the breakup as well, which is influencing the overall risk prioritization. So now that we know what are the risks and what we need to be prioritizing, how about remediating them? That's where the remediation comes into picture. So what in the remediation section, what we have done is we now know all the risks which are in act category. And we also know that the patches which can remediate it. So what we are going to do is we are going to provide information where you can take action on this act category, right? So if you look at all these are patches, remediation patches, which are available across, since this is an organization dashboard, you'll see across the accounts. It could be related to the patch management, or it could be a misconfiguration, but we provide all those details. And for you to remediate from here, all you need is just 2 clicks. You just say fix, and you provide the task name, what you want to do, and you can decide on the schedule, whether you want to immediately patch, or we do daily scans. You want to start this after a scheduled scan, or you can decide to run it in a custom date and time of your choice. And once you apply the select patch, we understand all the accounts where this patch is missing, and we create remediation jobs across all the accounts. So the moment you create the remediation job, you can see in this pane actions, right? So you've taken an action and you can start monitoring it. For example, in this, 3 out of 13 has been completed, and some of them are like completely rolled out, right? So if you look at the whole flow of visibility, then we detect, and then we prioritize, and then we can take a remediation. So this is what we call the complete single pane of glass for all these activities. So this on the organization dashboard. You can also go to each of the account for further details. For example, one of this is account 1 under this organization. So this gives you an account level detail similar to what we saw in organization, but account specific. So here, everything would remain same in terms of the representation, but you can look at like what are the newly added devices in your organization. You can look at what are the user groups. You can see that there are almost 143 users under the administrators. Is this expected, or is this an anomaly? You get the information right here. You can look at what are the subnets in your network, and you can see how many hosts are connected to what subnets. Similarly, if you have an outdated applications, you can look at what are the outdated application and how many hosts it's present. So we provide all this information in the unified dashboard. I'm sure this is very helpful for all our customers. With that, I'll move on to the next agenda, which is apart from unified dashboard, we have also built in several new enhancements. So I'll just talk about each one of them and also give you a quick demo on this. So the first one is on the authenticated network scan. So SanerNow already supported remote scanning or network scanner. Now, starting 6.0, now we will be supporting authenticated scans as well, where we accept the credentials and we can scan against the target network device. So I'll show you a demo on that. We also have enhanced our reporting capability. So we have built a completely new module for organization-wide reports. We were having account-wide reports, but now to get a consolidated view across all the accounts, we are now going to provide you an organization-wide report where you can create your own custom organization report, or you can use some of the canned report, which is a pre-populated one. So I'll show you about that. And also we have a detailed scan report for each of the network scanner. So whenever you run a scan using the network scanner, you can generate a report which gives you detailed information about it. Apart from the report enhancements, we now support non-security patches and feature updates for third party. We have been supporting security patches for third party application, but now starting 6.0, we are going to support non-security both patches as well as feature updates, and we will be supporting 400 plus third party applications with this capability. So I'll show you a quick demo on that. And starting 6.0, we are going to score the CCE. So if you look at every misconfiguration is mapped to a CCE, and CCE is scored based on the CCSS, right? So the higher the score, the higher the risk it is. So now we are computing the CCSS, we are computing the CCSS score and assigning the severity for each of the CCE. So with that, let me quickly jump into a demo and show each of these capabilities. So the first one is on the network authenticated scan. Like I mentioned, we already support network scanning. So if you look at, you need to click on this control panel and come to the network scanner. And one thing is, like before, we don't need any additional hardware. You can designate one of your endpoint device to become a network scanner. So once you do that, you need to configure a scan config, which talks about which IP addresses it has to scan and what ports. And then you can also configure a scan policy, which talks about what scripts or what products it has to scan for, right? So I'm not going to spend much time here because these are all existing capabilities, but now I'm going to demonstrate you how do you configure an authenticated scan and run it. So the only change here is on the scan policy. So if you click on the scan policy, you can create a new policy. So with the new policy, if you want to run authenticated scan, you can filter out and select authentication scripts. So all these families and these are the scripts what we support as of now. And of course, this we keep adding these capabilities. So once you select, these are the scripts which you want to run, you can click on the next. So this is where you can provide your credentials. So we provide both HTTP as well as SSH authentication type. So either you can provide the username and password for the scripts what you have selected. So this is, we call this as local credential, which is applicable for this particular script. Or you can save a global credential, which can be used across this account for any scan policy. So here I've used 2 credentials. So you can always create how many number of credentials you want and provide all the details and save it with the name, which will appear here. So for any scan policy, you can go and click on whichever credentials you want. For example, you can select one or more credentials as well. So for this demo purpose, I'm just going to select one. So this HTTP credentials will be selected. And then once you save next and save with this details. So this is what I have done in terms of so policy gets created. So once the policy gets created, all you need to do is go back to the scanners, summary, and then associate that scan policy to one of the scanner and just click on the run, right? So if you look at it, I've already created one scan authentication as well as the scan policy. All you need to do is click on the scan. So if you look at it, the scan authentication, so 3.91 is the IP address where I'm remotely scanning and doing the authenticated scan. So 3.91. So I will start the scan. The scan will take, since it's just one device, it takes a couple of minutes. But in the meanwhile, I'll show you because I already have the demo results. So if you look at this is the network scan device. I've scanned Fortinet FortiGate, which is a firewall. So it's able to detect the application as well as the version of it. It is also able to detect all the vulnerabilities and also the ports and service, right? So there's just one device, but like this, you can select on your configuration and you can provide a range of IP address. You can provide how many other targets you want, as well as on whether you want to select the default ports or top 1000. So you can customize accordingly. So this is about the network authenticated scan. Moving on. So while I'm on the network authenticated scan, let me quickly talk about the other enhancement as well on the scan report. So like I mentioned, we can download last 2 scan reports. So either the latest or on the previous scan result. So once you download the scan result, we give you all the information about the scan. We talk about what was the configuration policy used, how many targets scanned, how many scripts scanned, and we talk about, we provide all the details about the IP address. As part of the scanning, how many applications we detected, how many ports and service, what are the vulnerability, how many vulnerabilities we detected and misconfiguration. We also provide based on the host. So every host, what we have scanned, how many vulnerabilities we detected, and also misconfiguration, also we give breakup. Then we go into detail about each of the CVE and provide details about the CVE and the severity, what application is the severity exists, and we also talk about the port and service, and also the impacted host. So it gives a complete detailed information about all the scanning. So this will be very useful to go through and identify all the vulnerabilities and misconfiguration detected by the network scan. So apart from this, I just wanted to touch upon the organization report. So this is the organization dashboard. So you can click on the reports. So once you click on the reports, so this is your dashboard. Like I mentioned, we have pre-populated reports, which you can use. We call it as clean reports. Also, you can create your own custom report. For example, if you want to click on risk assessment report for your entire organization, it will create you a report which has all the details about what we just discussed, right? So it has devices, details, the cyber hygiene score, the trend, the vulnerabilities, the misconfiguration, patches, the posture anomaly, everything. And you can also download this into the PDF format. And same information what you saw on the dashboard, you can also get through the PDF. You can also create a new report. So there are there are several report APIs we provide. You can just drag and drop any of these. For example, currently monitored device or device details. Any of these reports you can drag and drop and you can save it. Once it is saved, it'll start appearing here and you can load these reports. And after you load the reports, you can also create a backup. You can create a schedule for this. You can send this email regularly all this capability exists for the organization report. So, Jaksir, I know I'm running out of time. Is it okay to take another couple of minutes?
Yeah, definitely. We just have the Q&A session after this, Kaushik, but yeah, we do have a few minutes.
Okay. Sure. Thank you, Jaksir. So this is about the organization report. So you can create your own custom reports. Apart from this, just want to touch upon the non-security patches as well as the updates, feature updates. So you would be familiar with the patch management tool and the missing patches. So all this while we used to have security as well as non-security. Non-security patches we used to support for the operating system, but now we will be supporting for a third party as well. So this is a non-security tab, right? If you want only third party, you can just unselect OS. It will filter out and provide you only third party application. If you see Google Chrome and this is just a feature update or certain patch which does not contain security updates, right? So the rest of the workflow would remain the same. You can select this and just click on apply selected patch and you can create a remediation job. And same thing would be available in the automation as well. If you don't want to create a job every time, you can go ahead and configure the rule and create a schedule for the rule so that it runs at a periodic interval and it is going to remediate. So this is one of the last enhancements I'm going to talk about. This is more on the CCE scoring. So starting 6.0, we are going to use the CCSS severity score to rate them as critical, high, medium. So if you look at every CCE now, we are going to apply the CCSS algorithm and we are going to determine the score of this. So it will give you insight into what CCE you need to prioritize. Not only this, if you can also prioritize based on them as well as create an automation job. So when you create an automation rule, you can also select, let's say you can select some of the assets, and while creating an automation rule now, you can mention whether you want only critical or you want only high, medium, and based on that, you'll be able to create an automation rule. So this will definitely help in prioritizing your misconfiguration, right? And identifying which needs to be remediated. Hope all of this capabilities and all the new enhancement would be really, really useful for all of you, and we hope people enjoy using this product. That's all I had. I will hand it over to Jaksir.
Thanks, Kaushik. Amazing stuff there. By the way, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of good feedback going to come. But the quick feedback from me, I really love the new look. I think I've said it a couple of times to Kaushik already when I was peeking into his workstation and I was looking at what the kind of stuff he was working on. But definitely, I really like the new look of the solution. So really nice stuff here, Chandra, Preeti, and Kaushik, and I'm pretty sure this has not been easy. So I was while you were presenting, I was going through the Q&A, and there are pretty exciting questions there, and I do have some of the other questions that came in recently. So it will open up to the forum, and also from the audience, if you have more questions for Chandra, Preeti, and Kaushik, please type them in the Q&A window. So starting off with one of the questions, Chandra, I think you can talk a little bit about how is SanerNow really different from other solutions. And I think some of them have been named by the audience. Does SanerNow use any of the other vendors at the backend? How does it actually work, and how should customers look at SanerNow?
All right. Yeah, so there are a number of siloed solutions in the market. So of course, there are vulnerability scanners that have been there in the industry for long enough. There are remediation solutions, patch management solutions that have been there for long enough. And there are risk-based vulnerability management products that have been made new inroads into the market. But there are also other kind of solutions that build a wrapper around each of these solutions and try and integrate each of them and automate vulnerability management to the level best. But all of them are basically trying to stitch together multiple point products to help manage vulnerabilities or life cycle of vulnerability end to end. So SanerNow is all of that in one single console, natively built. We don't integrate with external scanners. It is our own scanner that we've been building for several years. One of the best in the industry in terms of accuracy and detection capability. And the mitigation that extends beyond patching. We're not just talking about patch management. Of course, we have a pretty highly rated patch management solution in the industry, but we also extend these mitigation capability into fixing misconfigurations and going beyond patching to help eliminate other kinds of vulnerability that are present. And then we have end-to-end lifecycle from visibility to detection of all vulnerabilities, all kinds of vulnerability, prioritization that we have recently introduced, and remediation, all natively built, integrated for implementing vulnerability management as a continuous and automated routine. So that is where our differentiation of value addition comes in. And customers love the story and the product, the story that the product is conveying, and also, of course, reaping the value of the investment that they make.
Great, perfect. Another question from the audience is, does it support web applications? Does SanerNow support web applications is the question.
We do support off-the-shelf web applications if it is a custom applications, and if the question is about identifying vulnerabilities in the applications that are built, we don't do that today.
Okay. Are there any plans building that into the product? Maybe.
Yes. So we are seriously considering the application security capability, being able to do a white box sort of an analysis to identify vulnerabilities. We are also looking at building the build time itself, being able to identify vulnerabilities and mitigating even before the product goes live. So there are a number of things that are in the works within SecPod. So we do a lot of accelerated innovation as people who have looked at our history. Very recently, we launched a posture anomaly, which is an industry's first, and now prioritization. So there are a number of things that are coming in that we are working on.
Oh, great stuff. Another question is, are all the modules or functions needed to be activated to be able to use access CHS and unified dashboard? Maybe Preeti, you may want to take that up.
So whatever you have subscribed to, there is a minimum of one that you would need to see the cyber hygiene score, and no configuration afterwards. So you can just not depend on these many modules. It is just there on the dashboard with whatever modules that you have subscribed to.
Okay. Oh, that's great to hear. Another question we have is, does it support agentless scanning? Does SanerNow support agentless scanning? Maybe Chandra, you would like to take, or Kaushik, you may want to take that up.
Yeah, but we do support agentless scanning. So I touched upon the network scanner capability. So yeah, the answer is yes. we do support agentless scanning.
Okay. Perfect. There's another question. Organizations who are using other multiple solutions, such as SIEM, malicious tools, can use this tool, or shall we say this as end-to-end solution? It's a long question. If we call SIEM, there are SOC centers monitoring and sharing the vulnerabilities. Try to figure out the exact question. Maybe Chandra.
Yeah, I think I understood the crux of it. So where SanerNow is operating is in the prevention layer, which means detecting vulnerabilities proactively and mitigating those vulnerabilities within the same solution. Whereas SIM and the SOC, the primary purpose there is detection of a potential threat. Vulnerabilities do contribute to the implementation of SOC or a SIM solution, but the intention there is to see if there is a malicious activity going on as against detecting the vulnerability. So SanerNow operates a layer above that, creating the best possible security posture even before getting into the detection layer. Of course, we do integrate with SIM solution. All the discoveries can be fed into a SIM solution through our REST API. Any of the vendors, we will be able to ingest that data into the SIM.
Okay. Well, that's good. Hope we answer the question. If there's a follow-up question, please post that in the Q&A window. Another question we have, how is the cyber hygiene score? Preeti, you talked about how is it different than risk score?
So risk score basically tells you problems that are there, more towards how's the risk, right? We are totally opposite to that. So this shows the cyber hygiene that you have. So you always try to aim to reach that 100. Whereas if you say risk is 100, probably it's a problem, right? So it's completely opposite. If you're comparing it against any other product, which might show you risk score. So we show you the cyber hygiene score.
Perfect. Great. I think that's a wrap on the Q&A session. If audience has any more questions, you can post a quick email to us at info@secpod.com. Or you can go to our website, post a message there. And I think there's another question. How do I get to beta access to risk prioritization? And I think that was on my next agenda. So yes, currently we have only opened up the beta access exclusively for our selected customers. Though you can also request access by sending a quick email again to info@secpod.com, or you can drop us an inquiry through our website. Right, and we'll definitely look at the request and work with you. With that, I think pretty amazing session. What do you say, Chandra, Preeti, Kaushik? Did you enjoy? I certainly enjoyed talking about this.
Like we always do. Always fun.
Absolutely, yeah.
Great. Thanks. I would like to thank our amazing audience again. So as a wrap, SecPod SanerNow cyber hygiene platform is a advanced vulnerability management solution with all the new upgrades that Chandra, Preeti, and Kaushik talked about today. We help IT security teams to discover vulnerabilities, install patches, prioritize the risk, quantify cyber hygiene, comply with regulatory standards, get asset exposure. Oh my God, it's a long list, so I can't keep reading on for more. You can check our website or sign up for a quick demo. We'd love to show it to you. Once again, we will have a recorded version available on our website and our YouTube channel. We'll also send you an email with the exact recording URLs. Please keep tuned to SecPod webcast. We'll see you on our next session. Thanks for your valuable time. We wish you a happy time ahead. Good evening,
Thank you so
everybody.
much.
Good. Have a
Thank you,
nice.
Bye.
Bye.